once again, another episode of King's Gridiron Challenge TV. Okay, everyone, we have now got through our technical difficulties and we're going to roll with cbob. This is going to be a special video because this is going to be the first of 4 teams in the King's Gridiron Challenge that we are calling a juggernaut. A true title contender. Missing the playoffs would be a very disappointing season. Not making a deep playoff run would also be a very disappointing season. This is cbob of the Hallis Division. Let's jump right into it. This team is called a juggernaut because they are loaded at every position from top to bottom. Drew Brees, #1 fantasy quarterback last year. He gets Sean Payton back. Having a better season than #1 points last year is not out of the question. They say the Saints are going to try to run a little more with Sean Payton. I would not bet my money on that. Look for Drew Brees to have another 600-point season or very close to. Let's go right down the list with wide receivers. Brandon Marshall, #1 wide receiver in fantasy football last year. Points may say differently, but he did beat Calvin Johnson for the point total last year. Adjustments were made for the 2013 season, but in 2012, Brandon Marshall was the #1 receiver. Getting him for anything less than a #1 pick was a steal for cbob. Stud wide receiver who teams up with a Victor Cruz, another stud fantasy wide receiver. This is a guy who got a chance to have 1,500 plus yards, 8 to 10 touchdowns, 80 plus catches in that giant offense. They're going to look to him early and often. You know, when he gets the ball, boom, missed tackles, jukes. This guy can take it the distance on any player. Jason Witten, solid tight end. Top 5 fantasy tight end, even though he's getting up there in age. Des Bryant, coverage is going to roll to him this year. Look for Witten to be open just as often as he ever has been. Witten should explode for another top tight end fantasy season. DeMarco Murray, #1 running back for the Dallas Cowboys. This guy looks to be good. Let's hope he can stay on the field. And he should put up big points. He was hurt last year, but this year, if he can stay healthy, this guy's got top 15, top 10 running back potential. Even though Romo throws for near 5,000 yards, DeMarco Murray will get touchdowns. Regardless of what they said, I don't believe he has any competition from any back in Dallas. Maurice Jones-Drew, if this guy can stay healthy, this guy is a top 5 NFL and fantasy football back. Maurice Jones-Drew is nearly a lock for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns anytime he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, that offensive starting lineup for cbob is scary. They can put up 150 points any given week. Going down his bench, Danny Amendola, #1 wide receiver, looks to take the place of Wes Welker out in New England. He does have ability to get to the outside more than Wes Welker, so there are going to be more options and routes for him to run. Big-time player right there. Stud guy coming off the bench. You know, even replaceable for any of his 2 running backs in that wide receiver running back flex position. Along with Justin Blackmon, suspended 4 games, but that's okay. This guy looks to be a top 20 NFL wide receiver. Once he gets going, him and Cecil Short should be a dynamic duo in Jacksonville if they can find a quarterback. Joseph Randall, good handcuff for DeMarco Murray. No more needs to be said about that. Lance Moore, this guy, no one ever wants him. No one ever thinks about him. But this guy only goes out and puts up 134 fantasy points. No one would have thought that, huh? Yes. Lance Moore, he's a solid player any and every given week, and this is a guy that is on cbob's bench, making his team even deeper than most. Carson Palmer, going to Arizona, his career should be resurrected there. Bruce Arians' deep passing attack, along with Larry Fitzgerald, Michael Floyd, Andre Roberts, Rob Hausler. Palmer might have the most weapons he's ever had since back in the days of T.J. Houshmandzadeh and Ocho Cinco up in Cincinnati. Mercedes Lewis, this guy's a solid tight end. Pretty much he's just a good sub-filling guy. Fluke season a few years back when he got double-digit touchdowns. You can do a lot worse when you have to play him 1 game on a bye week for your starting tight end. Julius Thomas looks to be #1 possible tight end in Denver with Welker, Decker, and Demaryius Thomas. I don't expect Julius Thomas to get more than about 30 catches, but, you know, solid fill in for Witten's bye week if he chooses him over Lewis. David Ashbury, Oakland tight end. Oakland tight end situation's up for grabs. 3 or 4 guys that could possibly be the starter there in Oakland. We'll see how that pans out, though. Chris Ivory just came over to cbob in a trade with Tyler's boys. Chris Ivory, if he can stay healthy, if the Jets have any sort of a passing attack, this guy's got the potential for 1,200 yards, 8 to 10 touchdowns. Solid youth. Gave up Darren Sproles to receive Ivory with some other pieces. Sproles is guaranteed points. Ivory looks better off suited for the future. So that fact that cbob's already got Murray and Jones-Drew, that's a solid pickup for him. Kicker looks like it's been a fluctuating situation. Don't know how Crosby is going to pan out in Green Bay, so cbob made the solid move to drop him, pick up Robbie Gould. Robbie Gould, always been a solid kicker, even in those swirling winds of Chicago. Cincinnati and Cleveland, 2 defenses for cbob. Cincinnati, real good defense. Their defensive line is probably one of the most underrated in the NFL, even though people do like them a lot and are hyping them up. Burfict came out of nowhere as a linebacker for them. They got some good linebackers, got a young safety, they got some decent corners up there. Cincinnati's defense is really coming together. I like them a lot. Cleveland as well, they're solid. They held teams to 356 points last year, which you probably would think that they'd be scored on a lot more. 17 interceptions, 38 sacks, 12 fumble recoveries. That's a solid defense there. It's kind of underrated because they have to play from behind a lot. They have to offense really doesn't give them anything to do, but Cleveland, decent backup for them. IDPs, let's go ahead and we'll start with the DBs. Kenny Vaccaro, safety out of University of Texas, rookie going to New Orleans. They're going to play a lot of 3 safety sets. This guy slotted in as the slot corner, and then the dime and nickel packages. He should be able to get tackles, make a few plays. Eric Weddle just came over in that running back trade that I talked about earlier for Bernard Pollard. I believe that's a major upgrade for cbob. Weddle, tackle machine in San Diego. I'm not liking their front 7, so Weddle should get a chance at a lot of tackles there. J.J. Watt, what can you say about him? Sack master, tackle for loss master. This guy's got the art of pass deflections as a defensive lineman. I think he really needs to start his own school and teach guys. You don't get the quarterback in 3 seconds, drop and get ready to jump and bat some balls down. So solid #1 IDP overall last year from the defensive line position. That is a major advantage for cbob on every given week. Paul Posluszki, Jacksonville linebacker. He's solid, racks up tackles. Arthur Brown taking the place of Ray Lewis there in Baltimore. Be a bit of a learning curve, but they're not going to expect him to replace Ray Lewis. Just come in and play his game. That should be great for him. You know, he should rack up enough tackles to be real relevant in fantasy football. Colin McCarthy, Tennessee, if that guy can ever stay healthy, also could be a top 5 IDP linebacker. Sean Williams, Cincinnati. Young rookie safety, that's going to be solid there. He's got 2 rookie safeties to go with Eric Weddle. Looks like those guys are locked up if he chooses to keep them for years to come. Okay, so going through the list here, cbob moves over to the Hallis division from the Landry division, made the playoffs last year. Pimp Daddy, the Bloody Sundays, Bones of La Brea. Sorry guys, but I believe that's 6 wins for cbob out of 13 games. Meaning 7 other games. cbob easily has a chance to go 5-2 outside of the division. I am predicting an 11-2 season for cbob. Let's go ahead and look at his schedule here because I've got a minute here. Definitely predicting playoffs for cbob. Deep playoff run. I'm looking at his schedule here. Week 7, C Unit. Week 8, Horsecock Sandwiches back-to-back. I think those are the 2 toughest games he has on his schedule. We also know with injuries, anything can happen. But Week 7 and Week 8 are the 2 tough games on cbob's schedule. Say he goes 1-1 in those and has a slip somewhere else. 11-2, solid. This guy's got a chance to be the #1 seed in King's Gridiron Challenge. Next up, we will have Bones of La Brea, and that will finish out the Hallis division. We will then go ahead and move on to the Landry division starting on Monday, barring any more technical issues. cbob, look for him to make a statement this year.